I'm going to go ahead and dive in with day 2. Oh, I love you. Eva is here. We had such a great time. She's been on a couple trips with me where we're in footsteps of the Apostle Paul, spiritual pilgrimage, and also I'm a little biased, but I don't care. I'm going to just go out there and say it. I've been going on mission trips for over 20 years. That trip to Guatemala was the best mission trip ever. It was the most loving group of people ever. It was incredible. So if you see me announcing a mission trip or announcing a spiritual pilgrimage or the 7 days to freedom event that's coming up, make sure you sign up for those because they really are incredible. I just got to say. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So welcome everybody to day 2 of our 7-day online influence challenge for those who want impact, income, and influence. God is raising up kingdom influencers. I think we see in the world today that the enemy is exerting such influence at every level and all around the world. And we need to let our light shine. We need to counter that. We need to be able to, go mix it up, hop into the fray. It's a little bit scary, There's some crazy people out there. There's some haters. But we need to step out and shine the light. And when I taught this similar material 7 years ago, there's some things I'm saying now that I wouldn't have said then. And I told you yesterday, and I'm reiterating it again today, you got to be strong. If you're going to go out and be wimpy and wishy-washy and, just say what everyone else is saying and go along to get along, you can do that. God will love you, no worries at all. That's great. But you're not going to have any influence, or very minimal, I should say. Very minimal, because there's just too much noise. You're not going to be heard. The people who are going to be heard are those who are willing to polarize. And that's kind of what our message is today. I'm going to talk about your niche and branding. A good brand polarizes. If there aren't a good number of people who just hate you and think you're crazy, now what? Then you're just not going to be heard. And you've got to be willing to risk that. And that's what we said yesterday. You got to start with being secure in Him. Because to be an influencer today, you're going to have to take a stand. Okay, so Lord, I just thank you that you're so good and you give seed to the sower. And the minute I stepped out and said, need to do this again, I did this 7 years ago, and I've been telling myself I want to revisit this material. Guys, I just decided last week, like the day you got the email, full disclosure, the day you got the email, in fact, was probably an hour after I decided that I was going to do it. So Lord, I thank you that you give seed to the sower, that when we step out, you give us everything that we need. You're so good and amazing. And I pray that you would be with me today and give me seed to sow. Amen. Amen. Awesome. So day 1, soaring, secure in Him. And then today, day 2 is own your niche. And, of course, we're not, anyway, the secular people will say the riches are in the niches. So if you want to make an income, and even honestly, like I just said, if you want to have any influence, if you want to be heard, you've got to have a niche. Narrow is the road. Broad is the road that leads to obscurity and no one paying attention to you. I want to be... Anyway, narrow. And so the key is to know your tribe. And the first mission trip that I ever took was in 2003 with Wycliffe Bible Translators, or SIL they're called now, and New Tribes Missions to Papua New Guinea. And I ministered to 120 missionary wives from all over the world who worked with tribes all over the world, not just most of them were Papua New Guinea, but the women came in from all around the world at their headquarters there. And it was amazing. And in order to be a tribal missionary, You have to pick a tribe. None of those New Tribes missions or Wycliffe missionaries were like, I'm just going to reach the world for Jesus. Now, the way you reach the world for Jesus is to pick a tribe. This is really good stuff. This is so appropriate. So you pick a tribe, and then what do you need to do? First is learn the language of the tribe. And then you have to speak the language of that tribe. Otherwise, they're going to tune you out. And the other example that I give is, I've traveled to countries all over the world. I've been to more than 40 countries on 6 continents. And when you're surrounded by, language, you don't know what anyone's talking about. It's so confusing. It's just a blur. You kind of like, it's all noise. And then you hear someone speak your native language. You, all of a sudden, you are tuning in and you are paying attention. And that is the best kind of 2 examples that I can give you about how to be heard on the internet. It began as tribes, and we're back to tribal. The world is extremely tribal again. It's divided up into this group, and whether we like it or not, people are tribal. And I guess they really always have been. And so you need to decide what group of people you want to speak to, and you need to speak their language. You need to communicate them in a way that they understand. And now, how do you find a tribe? Probably the easiest way is you could just talk to people like you. You're already part of many different tribes. Your church is a tribe. If you're a career, you've got your career tribe. If you're a young mom, you're in the young mom tribe. Just think of all these different kind of aspects of your life as different tribes that you're part of, and there's some crossover and intersection. But if you want to be heard, you've got to pick one group of people, one tribe, and communicate with them clearly in a language that they understand. And I would even say, I'm going to give you an example. What is their gender? Do you talk to men and women, or do you just talk to women? Do you talk, and then, what's their age range? Do you talk to women, moms at home? When I began my career as an author 30 years ago, my tribe was women like me, young moms at home. Now I'm in a season, that's not my tribe. There probably are very few young moms here listening to me right now. I wish they would, but I don't think I speak their language. I'm from a different day and time. I'm not sure they relate to me. I mean, if I really focused on it, I could learn their language. If I felt called to minister to them and to reach them, I could do it. God would enable me. What's their income level? And again, I'll give you the example, because I've been doing this for a decade, training up people who want to do what I do, who want to be Christian communicators, whether they want to be an author, they want to be a speaker, they want to be an entrepreneur, they want to be an online kingdom influencer. For a decade, I've been trying to empower people like that. And the biggest challenge is that many of those same people have a passion for the hurting, and they want to help hurting people, which is amazing, but you're not going to make an income at that. Like, I feel called, a lot of my work is with refugees and internally displaced people, but they can't pay me, right? So I make a living empowering people who want to write books, launch ministries, take their message to the world, turn their message into a movement, turn their passion into profits. So that's how one tribe that I speak to, and I speak one language, and that's really my income flow. And then I have another tribe over here of refugees, internally displaced people, and I speak a different language to them. And I think you need to gain clarity. If you're here because you want income and influence, make sure that the tribe you're communicating with as your income generation stream are people who can actually pay you. Now, there is an option, of course, of creating a nonprofit, a foundation, and then supporting that outreach by donations and fundraising. But again, that's 2 different tribes. The people you're helping and the people who are funding, the foundations, the donors. Those are 2 different tribes. I hope that makes sense. And you need to be clear about that. What is their career? What is their vocation? Are you talking to working people? Or are you talking to stay-at-home moms? Are you talking to pastors? What is their lifestyle? Are they people who work from home, or are they people who have a job? Are they people who travel? What are their problems, and what are their aspirations? What keeps them up at night? I'll tell you, if you need to address a problem that keeps people awake at night and gets them on their knees in the morning. It's got to be that strong, that if you want to solve a problem, it's got to be the kind of problem that drives people to their knees or their highest aspiration. What is that dream? That's kind of where I'm at right now. It's like, what's that dream that they're just, they know it's there for them. And that keeps them up too. And they're like, Lord. I shared this example in a video that I did recently, that the Lord took me back to a moment. I said, what's kind of a pivotal moment in my life? And the Lord took me back to when I was in high school. I was pounding on this steel door because I had felt I wanted to audition for the school play, the senior play. It was like my dream. I knew that from the time I was a little girl, I wanted to be an author and I wanted to stand on a stage. And anyways, a long story, but they wouldn't even give me the opportunity to try out for the play. So the backup recording isn't working. Okay. And they wouldn't even let me try. And I was just so frustrated. I was like, I know this is what I'm supposed to do, but how am I going to get there? And that's powerful too. That point of frustration. It's like, how do I get past the naysayers? How do I figure this out? I've got this dream, this destination that I'm trying to get there. And if only someone would help me out, if only somebody would show me the way. And I mean, how many times if you're like, oh my God, can somebody just explain this to me? Can you help a girl out? That's what you want to be aiming for. That's the level of passion that needs to be connected, either pain or passion. Either pain or passion. And it's up to you which one you want to target. And I would say again, stay on track with one tribe. And I would even say begin with an ideal tribe member. And I've written this out for myself. Who is that person? Because you always need to be talking to one person, whether you're doing a podcast, whether you're writing emails, whether you're writing a book. You never talk to like generic. You, us, we, first person. There's a simple tip for you. Communicate with people in first person. Like you're talking to a friend. Not third person, not impersonal. Remember like corporate websites, corporate brochures? Is it dry, formal? You're not going to be here like you talk to one person. And I would actually encourage you to name that person. I've named mine. I call her Linda. And describe that person in vivid detail. I'll describe this is my what I call my ideal tribe member, the person that I want to help to get her message out there right now. Meet Linda. She's fit. Tell me if this is you. She's kind of 50-ish. Her kids are grown. Maybe they're in high school, but she doesn't still have kids in diapers. She's confident, outgoing, adventurous. She's motivated. She shops at Chico's. She likes podcasts and Audible. She's been successful, whether it's raising a family or a successful marriage. She's successful, but not fully satisfied. She knows that God has more. She wants to show up in a bigger way. She's at that season now where she's ready to give back. She wants to write a book. She wants to launch a movement. She wants to live her life on mission. The idea of lifestyle freedom, to be able to work from anywhere, reach people everywhere. She's got something to say. She's learned some things in her life. She's also ready to travel and have some adventure and work on her bucket list. She's concerned about getting older, life getting away. She wants to find more purpose. She wants to, feel accomplished. That's who I feel called to. And I want to contrast that with a very different tribe. When I first began my writing career, I called her, actually her name was Martha. That was my ideal. This is Linda, so I'm talking to you now. I used to talk to Martha, and I would use that as a name for examples all the time. My friend Martha. She had been through a lot of heartache and pain. Maybe she she was not raised in a Christian home for the most part. She was raised and had a lot of brokenness. She was busy at home with kids. She wanted to grow in her faith, but she didn't have time. She was overwhelmed with trying to figure out how to be a Christian and have a Christian family because she didn't have one. And my kind of watchword was, I write for women on the toilet. The kids are banging on the door, Mom, Mom, Mom. Contrast that. She's not the woman who's going to be at a Kay Arthur Bible study with, 20, I love Kay Arthur. You've got your pens and your papers and your charts and your checklist and your concordance and your cross-reference of the original Greek language and making all these diagrams and hours a day and homework. And she's got to be at a desk to do all of this. And she's got her Bible and her notebook and all these different pieces of that's where I am now. I love that stuff. In fact, I've got a Kay Arthur study. And I love it. I got my colored pens. Where are they? I'm having fun. Oh yeah, I get all kinds of colored pens and pencils and index card. I'm having a grand old time. But that's not where I was at the time. And that wasn't my tribe. And so the books, just a little example. In my books, I always included the Bible verse. I never said, which many Christian books do, go look up this verse. Never, because I knew she was in the bathroom and her Bible wasn't in there with her. I never said underline this because she didn't have pens and all she had was toilet paper and a minute of peace. Very different woman, very different season, very different tribe. And you want to know when I got in trouble? Those books that I wrote like that for that woman, she wanted to have a quiet time, but she'd have about 15 minutes for it. Those books sold hundreds of thousands of copies. 250,000 copies. They sold like crazy. And then sincere, well-meaning, my agent said, you need to do an inductive Bible study. That's people really like that. And so they assigned it was great. Donna, I didn't know my tribe. I didn't understand what I'm teaching you. They actually assigned a ghostwriter to help me, who had done all the Bible studies for, J.R. Stott, this great Reformed theologian. And it was, go look up this verse and go look up that verse, and bombed. This book's hardly sold 10,000 copies. It's called Extracting the Precious from Isaiah and Extracting the Precious from Corinthians. And they're pretty good. They're like inductive Bible study light. But they didn't sell hundreds of thousands of copies. They sold a fraction. Because I forgot who my tribe was. I forgot who my niche was. It was that woman on the toilet with her kid banging on the door, just trying to get some strength from God. Did somebody get this? Is this making sense to somebody? And so at different seasons of your life, you may have a different tribe. And like as with me, I kind of like to minister out of where I am now, but that's not like the only way. You may be I'm 60 next year. You may be my age and feel called to reach back to help the Martha, which is great, which is biblical. But know who you're talking to, understand her inside out and backwards, and talk to her personally. Never write anything like people everywhere or as one should understand. No, I'm talking to you, Linda. Hey girl, what? And talk like yourself. Be yourself. Just be you. Be authentic. That's what people respond to. Give her, as I said, give her a name, write a description of her, and then you can find her. And I want to say this, it's really important. Write this one down. This is a good one. Be inclusive in your heart, but exclusive in your focus. For example, I was the founder and I ran it for a little over a decade of Women's Empowerment University. And now I'm phasing it out because I'm moving into a new season. And even if you go to women'sempowermentuniversity.com, you'll notice the change in branding. It doesn't say Women's Empowerment University anymore. It just says Donna Partow International. But I really feel called. I've never been a man, not planning to become one. But so I really felt called to speak to women. And that's my exclusive focus. But does that mean men aren't welcome? Lots of men signed up for this class. Lots. Men take my classes. Men show up at my events. Men enjoy my teaching. There's probably some men here. So I'm inclusive in my heart. Whoever wants my help. You're like, well, Donna, I don't think I'm Linda. I think I'm Martha. You can still be here. That's okay. I'm a man. That's all right. Everyone is welcome. I gave the example yesterday. I'm a minister. The only thing I know is Jesus. That's it. The power of the Holy Spirit. Muslim women want to come on in. I've talked to Buddhists. I've talked to atheists. I've talked to Satanists. Everybody is welcome. But I need to speak the language of my tribe. And if you want to listen in, feel free. But I'm talking to my tribe. You want to be heard? You've got to talk to that tribe. Exclusive. Because they know people are tribal. There's just so many options. Don't be a wandering generality. Be a meaningful specific. I think it was Jim Rohn who first said that. Don't be a wandering generality. Be a meaningful specific if you want to be heard. Inclusive in your heart, exclusive in your focus. I'm just telling you all the stuff that I know that Christians struggle with. Because I've been at this a long time, right? Yeah, I know. Well, I can't exclude anyone. We're not talking about excluding anyone. Everybody's welcome. And I would say, God calls us to love everyone, but you can't help everyone. Not yet anyway. And who will benefit the most from what you have to offer? Another example, we have an annual event called 7 Days to Freedom. It's our signature event. I think we've been doing it for 8 years. We love it. And it's kind of that intersection of my two passions, which is taking the message to the world and ministering and touching the world, and also kind of entrepreneurship. It's kind of an intersection of that. And whenever we talk to people that we hire to help us spread the word, they're always like, well, this whole Christian thing, that's going to turn some people off. I'm like, okay. And yet we've had people who weren't Christians come. Well, we actually screen. So maybe this isn't the biggest example. Now we screen. That one, the non-Christian didn't like the event. So now we screen it. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you on that it's freezing. Makes me really sad because I do have high-speed internet, so I don't know why it's doing that. I'm just going to have to keep going. Katie, have you been hearing me fine all along? Am I getting distracted for no reason? Could you let me know? Eventually, you may become a celebrity and everybody will want to know your opinion on everything. You can kind of become a lifestyle guru, but you can't start there. And this is in your workbook, and I just want to bring it out here. Until a large group of someone's is listening to you about something, the chances of everyone listening to you about everything are pretty slim. Okay? I'll say that again. Until a large group of someone's are listening to you about something, the chances of everyone listening to you about everything is pretty slim. You've got to pick some narrow topic and start with that. And I think what most people struggle with is that this misconception that if I have a narrow focus, I'll reach less people. And the opposite is true. I know you're struggling with this, right? That can't be right. If I try to talk to everybody about everything, then I'll have more people listening to me. It's not true. It's not true. Talk to a specific group of people. The more specific, the more narrow, the more powerful, and the more people you're going to reach. Again, remember, there's 8 billion people on the planet. So within that niche, there's enough people for you to reach. And then help a very specific group of people get very specific, tangible results. I need to make a distinction here between those who just want to influence and those who want income. If you just want to influence people, you can talk about spiritual growth, whatever you feel led to. But if you actually want to make an income, you have to solve a problem. You have to deliver results. You have to deliver results. And you're not going to be able to deliver results in every area. The more specific, the more measurable, the more people are going to be drawn to you. There's an excellent book. I used to really I don't like him anymore. I don't like his podcast. He's kind of veered off in a weird, direction. But the book that first inspired me to lifestyle freedom is The 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. The book itself is great. Some of his older podcasts were also great. But he inspired me with this idea of being able to work from anywhere and reach people everywhere. But one of the things he talks about is cultivating selective ignorance. And I covered this yesterday, so I'm not going to hammer it too much. I'm only going to be an expert on this one topic. And there's a lot of other topics I'm not going to address. I'm not going to, even learn about or think about. I'm going to have this one narrow topic and I'm going to own it and be an expert on it. A micro topic. Jack of all trades, master of none is not a compliment. And it no longer works. You know what it does? It leads to overwhelm. It leads to a case of, shoulditis. It leads to a case of, I should be further along. I should have all of this figured out. Now, there's two ways for those of you who want to make an income. There's two ways. A small tribe of people who each pay you a lot, or a large tribe of people who each pay you a little. Just to give you an example. Let's say your goal is to make I'm making this up, so my math isn't that great. If you want to let's say you want to make $5,000 a month. If you have 1,000 people who give you $5 a month, you can make $5,000 a month, but then you've got to reach 1,000 people. Or, how's my math? If they give you $500 a month, how many do you need? 10? I just did math. Woohoo! 10. If you had 10 people who were paying you $500 a month for some high-level service, let's say you're running YouTube ads or Facebook ads or something like that. I mean, you could probably have one customer paying you $5,000 a month if you could do some really high-end service like that. But there are two ways, and it's very important for you to make a decision, and it must be intentional. Do you want to have a large, huge, lots of people giving you $5 each, write a lot of books, sell a lot of books? Or do you want to invite people into a coaching? I'm getting a tiny bit ahead. We'll cover that, I think, tomorrow or the next day. The day after. Coaching, group coaching, one-on-one coaching, consulting, A membership group is a great way to go, depending on your kind of your entrepreneurial bent. But there are different ways of doing this. And it's important for you to make a decision and be intentional about it and intentionally choosing your tribe. Now, I want you to answer these two key questions. And I want to give you the permission and the freedom to do so. Who do you want to work with? And who do you not want to work with? And this is really hard as a Christian. And I have struggled with this. And it's probably been one of my biggest struggles with my online university, because I felt a lot of pressure that I should work with a certain type of people, even though I really didn't enjoy it and didn't feel called to it and really didn't have the gift. I mean, I'll just be honest, okay? If you've got a lot of problems, I'm not your girl. You know, if someone, my spiritual gift test, mercy is like sub-zero. I'm a prophet. I'm a snap out of it, John the Baptist. My answer to everything is repent, repent, repent. That's my answer to everything is repent. And snap out of it, get over yourself. That's my gifting. I'm a teacher, I'm a prophet, discernment. My gift is not mercy. So when I put myself, or I let other people pressure me and to say, Donna, you have to work with hurting people who need mercy, who need a lot of healing, who have issues. It sucked the life out of me, and it didn't help them. And I just want to encourage you. Be honest with yourself about who you are. And this again is why when we do the 7 days to freedom, we really go deep into this stuff and we get honest and we get real. We do all kinds of self-evaluation. You need to know yourself, be secure in Him, know who you're called to serve, who you're not called to serve, and be okay with it. I'm telling you, one of my smartest moves was finally deciding that it is okay for me to choose who I want to work with and who I feel called to invest in. And my dumbest mistake was letting my tribe choose me and giving into the pressure of should. Forget about should. One of my heroes, I mean, like my dream, is Heidi Baker. Most amazing woman in the history of the church. She's so amazing. I had the privilege of ministering alongside of her in Bogota, Colombia. Maybe some of you heard me share the story, but I was sitting in the room, in the green room. We were having a meal, and love walked in. Like the presence of God, like the love of God walked in. And I turned around and there she stood. That's how amazing, how powerful she is. Wow. And her thing is stop for the one. Oh, gee, I should be Heidi Baker. Stop for the one and show mercy. And I'm a Jersey girl. It's just not me. Even if I want to, I stop for the one and they're like, wow, lady, you just beat me up. You know, you're telling me to get up and get going and get moving and go take the gospel into the world. I'm bleeding by the side of the road here. It's not my gift. It's not my call. So don't give in to the should. You've got to know who you are. You've got to be secure in Him and in your calling. Know who your tribe is. Know who your niche is. Commit to it. Don't let people distract you. I was so clear about who I was supposed to reach with Women's Empowerment University. And I woke up one day and it was so far from what I thought I should be doing. And it was just pressure. Giving into pressure. You got to stop for the one. You got to help the hurting. They don't want my help. And I want to dive into your personal brand. I'm a Jersey girl. That's me, straight up. If you don't like it straight up, you know what? You're not going to like me that much. In day one, you gained clarity about who you are and who you're called. And today we're looking at who you're called to serve. And I think you also need to look, and we're going to turn to that now. And that's, why would they choose you? Like you want to choose them. Why would they choose you? And it comes down to branding. What's going to set you apart from all the other voices on the internet who are already seeking to make an impact? All those other people who are already kingdom influencers. All those other people who are already generating income around that topic for that tribe. What's going to make you different? I already said a good brand polarizes. And I would encourage you to look at 3 points: what you stand for and what you stand against. What you stand for and what you stand against. And then what's the most radical, counterintuitive, even controversial thing that you believe or recommend? I've just thrown up a whole bunch of controversy right here. Do you know how many Christians would not like what I just said? A lot of them. A lot of Christians would be like, you're not allowed to say that. We have to serve everybody. Paul said, I've become all things to all people. Well, as soon as I turn into Paul, I'll be able to do that. But meanwhile, I'm just little old me and I can't do it. Right? So again, I talked about this yesterday. Be controversial. I mean, not for the sake of it, but be willing to jump into the fray. When people are debating and emotions are high, don't walk in and be in the middle of the row like everybody's right. Not if you want to have influence. You got to jump in and say what you think. I know Sierra's here. Sierra, if you want to be heard, you're going to have to throw some flames. You're going to have to do a little bit of that. I was talking with, I don't know if Val is here, but I gave Val an idea. I mean, if she were willing to jump into the fray right now and just throw out some really controversial stuff, she would draw a tribe to her. But it's scary because then you're going to get hate mail. But a good brand polarizes. And here's the thing, you already have a brand. We're talking about branding. You already have a brand. Everybody you know, everybody who encounters you on social media, they already have a specific impression of you. And your homework is to go find out what it is. Ask people to describe you in a sentence or one word. You pick. Either it's do a sentence or do one word, do 2 different posts. See what gets the most reaction. You could do it on social media. You get a spouse, you get a teenager. How am I coming across? And again, I'm going to hurt feelings. Jersey girl. I'm going to hurt some feelings. I see people and when I say be controversial, I don't mean, how do I say this? I see people who go online and share the most personal stuff about their family, so say horrible things about their spouse and kids. And I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. If that's their brand, I think it's okay because it's controversial. But I'm talking about that person who's just, how do I say it? Complaining, venting, seeking sympathy. That's what I wanted to say. Don't go online to try to get sympathy for your problems. That's what I'm trying to say. Not if you want to be an influencer. I mean, if you want to do it. But if you want to be a kingdom influencer, you need to go on social media to help people solve their problems, not to try to get them to feel sorry for you because of yours. I think it's a mistake. How do you show up on social media? It's not the place to complain about your problems. It's the place to encourage other people in the midst of their problems. If you want to be a leader, you need to have a consistent image online. And I put in a template This is actually included in our 7 Days of Freedom event. We provide this template, but I've given you an example of mine. The colors, the fonts, the way I'm wanting to position myself. I veered off of it with this class, and I noticed it after I did it. But anyway, it's all good. Because I had created this 7 years ago and I didn't have my brand then, and then I just kind of stuck with it. But you'll see in the template the colors that really are now my direction at this point. I want to say, because we're doing this on Facebook, I want to say, and I've got just enough time to cover this, some thoughts on putting your best face forward on Facebook, taking time to scrutinize you. And again, if you're on Instagram, YouTube, Pinterest, LinkedIn, do the same process on all of those. And just ask yourself, would I follow me? Would I take my advice? Based on how I'm showing up on social media right now, would I take advice from me? Begin with your profile. Imagine you're a tribe member and you're looking for a tribe leader. What do they see? How would they respond? Your banner, how you have your Facebook banner there. Is it on message? Is it professional? You can upgrade, you can get a Fiverr for $5 and have someone make a banner with what's your core message. If you could just say one sentence to the world, what would it be? Put that on your banner. How about your Facebook profile? Is it you, your face, close up, or is it like your dog or nothing? Are you facing forward? Is it flattering? The work section. Most people have that wrong. I go into more depth on how to do this in my Take Your Message to the World class. I would say that probably 80 to 90% of people have the work section wrong. It takes people to a dead end. Don, I am just controversial today. So how can I encourage and be controversial at the same time? By taking a stand. What do you stand for and what do you stand against? And when you take a stand for something, for righteousness, that's controversial. When you take a stand against unrighteousness, trust me, that's going to be plenty controversial. Your music, your movies, your TV shows. When I first taught this 7 years ago, I went and looked at all my because they had paid, to be in the class. And so I went and looked at all of these are people who signed up saying, I want to be a kingdom influencer on social media and the internet. And I went and looked at like their favorite music, their favorite movies, their favorite TV shows. I might be old school, and this is maybe, I was stunned. I couldn't believe it. Maybe that's because I'm 60. I actually just downloaded on Kindle one of the best-selling Christian women, her book. It's the #1 bestseller in the country. I'll go ahead. She's talking about Beyonce and all these TV shows that polarizes. Like right away, I'm like, she's not for me. But she's for a lot of other people. They like that more contemporary Christian progressive approach. It's really hot right now. If you look at all the top selling, Jen Hatmaker, Rachel Hollis, people who are selling millions and millions of books in the Christian market, they're on the progressive wing of the church. And it's very hot right now, which would be controversial for someone like me. I'm really more on the conservative, the prophetic, I would say. I'm not conservative, prophetic. And then you have the evangelical wing, which is, again, more leaning more in the progressive direction. So, you need to think about your market. If your market would think it's really hip and cool that, your favorite music is Beyonce and you're watching Game of Thrones, that's your market. I would look at that and say, I'm not following her. That's not where I am. Those are not my convictions. Does that make sense? You need to know who you're trying to reach. It's probably different from who I'm trying to reach. But pay attention to that. Pay attention to how you're showing up and how that's being perceived. You don't have to agree with me. Again, one thing, don't say it. Okay, she's not going to say it. I would clean up your photos. If they're unflattering, just get rid of them, delete them. If you're tagged in, I can't answer that question. You guys have to answer it for yourself. I'm just saying a good brand polarizes, and you need to decide where you want to be. And people who, have staked out wherever you want to be, you need to be faithful to what God is speaking to you. I guess, I'm legalistic. So I'm in the legalistic lane. That's okay. Some people will like it. Some people won't. Be careful of other people tagging you, and you can untag yourself. If it's an unflattering photo, just untag yourself. And I just want to say, I think it's really rude to tag people in a post that has nothing to do with them. I personally don't like it. I have friends who do it. I know people who do it. They'll put up a post and they want it to get a lot of traction, and so they'll just tag tons and tons of people in it who really have nothing to do with it. A tag is, in my conviction, it's supposed to be people are in that photo. That's really the only thing that you should be tagging people in. You may feel differently about it. That's my conviction. I want to say a word about Facebook fan pages. And this is one Donna got right. The day that Facebook went public, that day I said, as of right now, fan pages are going to be worthless. Why? Because that's where they're going to monetize. And it didn't take long. The only way to get anyone to see a post that you put up on a fan page is to boost that post. Facebook, they've got to answer to shareholders now. And especially now. I'm recording this live in 2020. There's a boycott. There's 1,000 major corporations boycotting Facebook advertising. There's no way they're going to give your page free traction. They can't. They're going to have to charge you. You're going to have to keep putting money in the Facebook slot machine. So I personally think a Facebook page is completely worthless. I have one. I don't do anything with it. If at some point you're ready to do Facebook advertising, which again, I used to do Facebook advertising, and then you could do it and it was great. Then it became very competitive. I may revisit it now with this boycott. You may be able to get traction again, but it's complex. So I wouldn't bother with a page. I would have your profile built to 5,000 followers before you even think about launching a Facebook page. What you should have is a group. And I think I mentioned this yesterday. During the Super Bowl, which is the most expensive ad buy of the year, Facebook ran an ad for Facebook groups. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? That's what they want to build. For a while, they were trying to compete with YouTube, and that's why they were giving a lot of traction to Facebook Lives. They're not so much anymore because they bought Instagram, and so all the video, they're kind of driving the video over on Instagram. So what they're driving now, and they've come out and said this, they want Facebook to be for community building. They've said it. So where do you want to be? You want to have a Facebook group. That's where you want to be. Facebook group, not a page. And if you really want to do, I'm doing a Facebook Live here, but for videos, Instagram stories and Instagram TV, that's really, I should go in that direction if my life slows down. When is that going to happen? Does anybody know? Anyway, so you could do Instagram for stories and videos, or you could do Facebook Lives in your Facebook group, which is what I'm doing now. But I would not waste time on a Facebook. Again, I'm just giving you my convictions. Other people will say other things and have a different viewpoint. but this is my conviction. And I definitely was right about Facebook pages. I said it right away, and it was not long. And I've tested it many, many times. I'll put the exact same post at the exact same time on my profile and my page, and my profile would get hundreds of responses, and my page would get none. And then the other thing I'm going to tell you, for those of you who want income, impact, influence, doesn't matter. If you want to build income, you've got to build an email list. And beyond the scope probably of what I can dive into, because this is really mostly about social media influence for the most part, although in the coming days I may hit it more. The one thing that you can do with your social media, try to get people on your list, on your list, on your list, on your list, because at any moment, you don't own that. You know, you're renting space. It's kind of the difference between owning a home and renting a home. Your email, you own, free and clear. That's yours. Social media, you're just renting space, and they can change it at any moment. It happened to me. I started a Facebook group, a controversial one that Facebook didn't like. And pretty much from the time I started growing that Facebook group, they started shadow banning. And my posts that used to get hundreds of reactions, even 1,000 reactions, crickets. And I even like saw it when I had 50 people on a mission trip to Guatemala. They would post the exact same picture at the exact same time as me. And I have 5,000 friends and they have a couple hundred, and they get more engagement because Facebook has shadow banned me because they don't like my politics. So they can do that at a moment's notice. Twitter is the worst. I mean, they don't like you, bam, they will shadow you. It's happening everywhere. And if you're a Christian and sticking, like I'm saying, controversial claims, you know, some of these social media masters of the universe, they may not like it, and they can, you know, just kind of not send you traffic. So there's free traffic, there's paid traffic. Woo, girl, you can't cover that in 7 days. No, you can't. I go into more depth on that in the Take Your Message to the World class. Really, it's an amazing class, I have to say. I go into way more depth about that. Yes, you need a landing page. Yes, you need an email list. You've got to have a list. Get them into your Facebook group. Get them onto your list. Offer free stuff. You're not allowed to sell stuff. No one's buying anything on Facebook anyway. Trust me. I do that. I mean, I do this. This is how I make my income. Sometimes people will buy from a Facebook Live. If you have an exhorter gift, that makes a big difference. An exhorter can sell anywhere, anytime. But for the rest of us mere mortals, they don't want you selling anything on your profile, but you're not going to sell anything on social media anyway. Get them on your list, get them into your Facebook group, and then from there onto your list, and then through email. And I really got off on a tangent, and I think it's one of the top gurus. I don't know if it's Onyx Signal, might be top, like almost billionaire internet influencer. And he shared this, that they did a massive launch of one of their large multi-$1,000 products and tracked where the revenue came from. Now we're talking about income here. They advertised on Facebook. They advertised on YouTube. You know, they've got a fan page, ran Facebook ads. They had JV partners. They did everything that you could possibly imagine to register people for their paid program. And when it was all said and done, 80 to 90% of the people who actually enrolled in generated income, 80% of them were from their mailing list, their own mailing list that they had built. And that's my experience. Again, I've been saying it for years. I've been saying this for years. You don't sell on social media. The influence, you build influence, you build a following, you sow seed. That's tomorrow, right? Yeah, that's tomorrow. Social media is for sowing seeds. It's for making an impact and influence. You want to make an income, you got to get them on your email list. That's where income is generated. Lord, I pray that this message came through loud and clear. I pray that it was helpful. I know it was strong. Guys, I just gave it to you straight today. But Lord, that those that you have anointed and appointed to learn from me and to receive from me, that they received it. They received it. Jersey girls, straight up style. That's the way we did it today. And I pray that it was a blessing and that it empowered you. You've got some homework today. What do you stand for? What are you willing to take a stand for? What are you willing to take a stand against? And that is encouraging when everyone is hunkered down and cowering in fear and people are afraid to say what they, come on now, this is so, girl, I am so on time right now. I'm sorry. People are afraid to say what they think. You take a stand, it's encouraging. It's encouraging, and people will be drawn to you. What's the most radical, even controversial thing that you believe or recommend? Write out a vivid description of your ideal tribe member, even name her. Get a picture of her. You'll see I've got a picture of mine. And I didn't touch it today. Maybe I'll visit. Who do you need to become? I kind of started to go there. Who do you need to become to be a leader of that tribe? Does this help?